As we begin the new year, I want to thank everybody for participating in our programs, and I hope that we've been able to foster a feeling of community to all who participate. That is our, and I hope we are able to continue together to do just that in 2026. For the beginning of this year, being an election year, we'll be focusing on voter education. It's our goal to bring information to you that you can use in making your decisions on who to vote for. Next month, we will recap the various resources available to you as a voter in order to gather information on the candidates as a help in making your voting decision. This month, as part of our voter education, we're going to come at it from a different perspective. We would like to tap the resources that we have right here among us to restart a program of having volunteer members report to the group on various topics that interest them and which they follow legislation or practices, either very local or all the way up to the federal level. We had such a person. For those of you who have been a member for a long time, you might remember Mike Spellman. Do you remember him, Dan? Mike Spellman?
And then he taught me how to do that.
Yes,
we went down to Springfield together and in Washington. And
I remember him too.
Yeah, he was a lobbyist that went down to Springfield to lobby on issues of interest to AARP members. And he brought back a report each month to us to let us know, where things stood or what was new. The way I envision this working is, if you're interested in a particular subject, like say for instance our member Dan, who's interested in sustainable farming, you would keep abreast of what is happening on that topic and relate legislation, and when there's activity on that topic, you would give us a summary report to our membership to bring them up to date on what's happening in that area. And in doing so, make the membership more informed voters. It's hard to vote on things if you don't know where the issues stand and where the politicians stand. So that would be a great help to us in being informed voters if we know what's going on. Otherwise, you may not even be aware of things. A lot of things, slip under the carpet. We can keep each other informed and all be better for the additional input from each other. And today we'll be looking at a video, and it may not seem appropriate to that topic, but I want you to think about this. It is directed toward environmental nurturing of the earth and personal responsibility, as we are all interdependent between the earth and all life on earth. If you think of that independence as a personal responsibility and as a way for us to make and keep the earth sustainable for not only ourselves, but future generations, it's important that we are informed about how we affect the earth and what we can do to make positive choices and avoid negative choices. Of course, there are many paths to sustainability, and they are unlimited because everything affects everything else in some way. So it doesn't matter what subject you're interested in. If you think about it long enough, somehow it comes back to sustainability of the earth. That is the tie in between the video and our request for volunteers to keep us informed on what is happening with legislation and or practices that we can look at regarding actions that affect the Earth's future. Remember, we need to be good stewards of the Earth. There are many ways of doing that, as there are people who can inform us. of what is happening today and let us know what we can do and or vote on. I hope you will give this idea consideration and help us and our community to be better informed and better voters. So this is a video that Dan has searched out for us. It's very interesting on its own, but as you're looking at it, think about also how we could do something to help the earth as well.
To just study plants, she says. She listens to them. And with her brand new initiative, Plant Baby Plant, she is heeding a call to mobilize communities to restore plants in a way that, as she puts it, transforms love of land into social change through acts of creative resistance. Regeneration starts with seeds, stories, and remembering what it means to be a good relative, she writes. So let's get to it. It is my great pleasure and honor to have you with me here on Laura Flander Friends. Thanks for taking the time. I'm going to begin by asking you to introduce yourself. How would you describe who you are?
I would begin in my language and say bonjour and then hello, my relatives. I've told you that my name and my language is light shining through, Sky Woman, and I am a member of the Potawatomi Nation. I'm also a student of the plants, a mother, a grandmother, a professor of environmental biology at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, and the founding director of the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment.
Well, we often begin, I know that I've come from somewhere, going somewhere, and so have you, so just to kind of settle ourselves, place ourselves in this conversation, who is uppermost on your mind or on your heart as we begin?
I am really deeply enmeshed in this moment at getting Plant Baby Plant off the ground and trying to consider what does it mean to create community when we have only virtual tools. My favorite way of creating community is working with people in person, outdoors. This is a whole new skill set for me, a whole new approach to creating community. So I'm thinking a lot about how can we act big in a microcosm.
One of the things that I've learned from your work is that, I think, if you'll forgive me, that if plants and animals had a preferred pronoun, it wouldn't be it.
That's cute.
And in your language, the Potawatomi language, it's not it. The grammar is different, and that changes us. Can you talk about that?
Here I am, spending my life literally on my knees before plants, learning from them. And then when it comes time to write about them, the English language not only gives me permission, but indeed a sort of a mandate that I have to refer to them as it, as if they were objects, these wise, brilliant teachers of mine. And I found the solution to that problematic objectification of other living beings as I was beginning to learn my own indigenous language, Anishinaabe or the Potawatomi language. And what you're referring to is that in our language, we speak a grammar of animacy. And so it's impossible to say it about plants or animals or indeed any other living animate being. So there was a powerful moment in understanding the lens shift, the whole frame shift that happens with a different language, with a different worldview, to view the plants, the animals, the waters as our relatives, not as our possessions, as our objects. And so I've been writing and working quite a bit in this field of thinking about how can we change language to reflect a worldview of relatedness rather than a worldview of human superiority and therefore extraction from the earth.
How do you also grapple with the grief that comes from that kind of heartfelt connecting to the world?
I think it is so important that we embrace ecological grief rather than look away. We have to embrace it. And the reason I say that is not only to ground us in the reality of what we are doing, but when we recognize that pain that we feel for the natural world, for our relationships with the natural world, is also the measure of our love for the living world. And it is that love which is mirrored in the grief that makes you get back up and say, not on my watch. I love this land. I love these beings, my relatives, too much to stand idly by. And Lord, that's where Baby Plant came from. I give more than 100 talks every year. And at the end of those hours, people are weeping because they love the world so much. There is this longing to say, well, what can I do? What can I do with this love? And it is out of carrying that away from every audience that I thought, we have to push back against a worldview of drill, baby, drill, that will continue to lead us down that path, and replace it with the notion of regeneration, of no, I am going to resist, I am going to ally myself with the plants who build biodiversity, who take carbon out of the atmosphere, who help us bring and build community. That plant, baby plant, grows directly from that grief, from that love, and from that longing, and offers an invitation to be in a more just and reciprocal relationship with land.
That relatedness comes up a lot in the serviceberry too. And I have to say that many of the sources that you cite in that book, which is a lot about economics, really, the economics of nature, are economists we've had on this program, people like Kate Rayworth and Eleanor Ahlstrom and others. You bring, or maybe the berries bring, another sort of perspective. Do you call it a kind of economy of nature? What do you call it? And how does it add to our picture of our relationship to the world?
My project in the serviceberry was, as an ecologist, to ask the question of why is it that we have created this human market capitalism, extractive capitalism, economic system, which is so at odds with the way that nature works. Nature doesn't promote scarcity and hoarding of capital or resources or private property. Nature is much more around circular economies. So there's no such thing as waste, is that the resource, if you will, is constantly in motion, being shared among all sectors of the natural economy, i.e. different species. And so serviceberry is really an inquiry into a kind of biomimicry. Could we engage the principles of biomimicry to think about a different kind of economy which doesn't destroy nature and human community, but in fact enhances it?
Well, this is exactly where you're going with Plant Baby Plant, and we're going to get right there next. But before we do, I just want to share with our audience, a few years ago, the good people at the Commons at the University of Kansas made this video of you taking us on a guided nature tour of the Clark Reservation State Park there in Janesville, New York. Check this out.
Just standing in this place, I see the food of the hickory, the food of the maples, the string of the basswood, and I see medicine. Right here in front of us, that black, flaky bark is a black cherry. And did you ever wonder why cough drops almost always come in black cherry flavor? Because black cherry is a cough medicine. And the bark of the twigs of that tree boiled down make a real good soothing cough medicine. And so, yes, you look at the world as full of biodiversity and these amazing beings living their lives, but they also are in relationship with us. And you see the cedars, really good respiratory medicine. We'll get close to one later. We came by a hemlock, which is super good for colds. It has tons of vitamin C in it. So they're medicines. They're medicines all around us to be honored, to be respected. And in fact, in our Potawatomi language, the word for plants is mishkakin, which means the medicines, but it also means, if you take that word mishkakin apart, it means the strength of the earth.
I do have to ask you about some of the other people who draw on laws of nature, or rules of nature as they call them. Because it's not just you, I wish it was, but we also have eugenicists and white supremacists and Malthusians and people who preach a doctrine that they say is a natural doctrine of survival of the fittest and culling the herd. You've got broligarchs out there now saying that they're going to create a new planet, and that's what a new future species, or cultivate a new planet with enough science. Did they just get it wrong? Or are we in a contentious dispute here over the laws of nature?
The politic thing to say would be that we're in a contentious dispute. I think they plain old got it wrong, as has happened so many times when people hijack science in order to support a political agenda. And over the last several decades, the research into cooperation, into mutualism, has repeatedly shown that mutual benefit, that cooperation can be selected for by evolution, by natural selection as well, and often is. And so this notion of nature red in tooth and claw is very much being replaced by this much more balanced framework to understand that all flourishing is mutual. An individual cannot thrive unless the neighbors thrive, because we're all dependent on each other.
I'm not indigenous, probably Celtic of some kind, who the heck knows, from Europe. I was trained in the kind of Marxist tradition, and Marx, it should be said, was very adamant that natural words like growth should not be applied to the man-made capitalist economy. He was very clear that there was a conflict there, and that the language of nature shouldn't be applied to these man-made systems. And as I thought of your work, I thought how all of us, in fact, have been, Marx would use the word alienated, from that natural world, from our relationship to it. And for a lot of us, we've felt like, well, the best thing we can do is just leave it alone. Not go there, not touch, not pick, not dig. But you're offering us another way to return to a reciprocal relationship. And that's a good, long way of asking you a question about plant, baby, plant, I guess.
I love how you framed that, Laura, because it's really a very active choice and decision that we have to kind of decolonize our minds from this industrial revolution concept that the earth belongs to us, as a source of nothing more than belongings, natural resources that are our property that we're there to take. There is this notion in many indigenous worldviews that human beings play a critical role in maintaining balance, that the way that we take from the living world can actually be regenerative. Some of my own research with sweetgrass has shown that sweetgrass left alone declines. Sweetgrass harvested in a respectful, sustainable way doubles its population.
Give us some examples of this sort of creative resistance.
We know that forest health in this country declined when colonists came and suppressed indigenous fire, made it illegal to take care of the land using fire. My own ancestors could be jailed, were jailed, for setting cultural fires that are good for the land, that renew the land. And of course, that fire suppression under the colonial agenda led to forest situations that were ripe for wildfire or catastrophic conflagrations, right? So there are so many examples now of the return of cultural indigenous burning in this country and all around the world. And it is renewing biodiversity, renewing forest health, and healing a relationship between people in place that say, we have to take care. We have to play an active role in caring for our land. So that's a very big and timely, sort of newsworthy way of thinking about human intervention. But it can also be as small as replacing lawns with wildflower. When you convert a lawn into a wildflower meadow or perennials or native plant landscapes at an orchard for you and your neighborhood, suddenly you shift that balance. You're now sequestering, storing carbon in soil and in plant biomass. So you take an active step to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in the choices of your landscaping.
I am curious what you would like urban people to see as their role, because we can often feel very removed from even having a yard, but certainly from the natural world.
Well, in the Plant Baby Plant movement, we recognize that not everybody has the privilege of caring for a piece of land. So one of our goals in Plant Baby Plant is to heal land. But one of the other acts of creative resistance is to build community. And the third one is to build power. And building community and building power are, I think, the gifts of urban communities, right? The dialogue, the resources, the activation that can happen there to hold our leaders accountable, to direct resources to land care and to just political and green action. So we're absolutely mindful that this care for land doesn't just happen with seeds and a shovel. Can happen with a laptop and a ballot box and talking to your neighbors. Now that's not to say that there aren't on-the-ground solutions in urban landscapes. There are, oh my goodness, community gardens, community urban farming that does all the things that heals land. It builds community and builds power as well. There's a wonderful movement called the Tree Equity Movement, particularly focused in our urban and to some extent suburban landscapes, which looks at the distribution of the benefits of nature, of a tree canopy. And when you look at that distribution in cities, what you find is not surprising, that it follows redlining, right? There is a huge justice gap between the access to trees and demographics in our cities. So the tree equity movement is one, and the community garden movement are ways that urban folks can participate. It's even been shown that the small act of pollinator gardens create resources when magnified over a whole block for pollinators and for birds.
I'm a big advocate of potlucks. Very simple, very pollinating of ideas, of power and connections, works for me. And there's another story that I was struck by as I looked at the history of braiding sweetgrass, your book, that sort of speaks to this as well. The book was published in 2013. You took it to a small independent publisher, Milkweed Editions in Minnesota. It didn't get any major reviews, but 7 years later, because of booksellers and buyers and word of mouth, it is a worldwide bestseller. You've got like 3 million copies sold, 20 languages it's been translated into. To me, that's sort of a lesson of reciprocity of a certain kind, people power. With your most recent book, Serviceberry, you're taking an action in the publishing too. When I got to the end of the book, I realized, you're donating your your advance royalties. To what extent is what you're doing, how you're doing it, also important to the message that you're bringing?
Thank you for realizing that, Laura. Exactly.
Great story.
Right? You know, we don't have to be complicit with these structures that are exploitive. And I love that. I love that the process by which we create community and share stories and try to catalyze a kind of cultural transformation to a reciprocal worldview rather than an extractive worldview. It matters how we do it. And I love your notion of a pop-up. To me, in Plant Baby Plant, that's the vibe. That's what we want to create, is to say, let's come together, build a community which builds resilience in a time when we are increasingly in this hyper-individual, highly polarized environment.
Name one practice, perhaps, that we could all get better at as we try to implement what you're talking about.
I want to name two practices.
Go for it.
One, an internal practice of gratitude, of being actively grateful for the gifts of the land, to name them, and this big inventory of the abundance of the natural world. That has tremendous practical as well as spiritual and community value, because gratitude makes you want to give your gift back. And so the first is gratitude, and when activated to reciprocity by gratitude, to say, what could I give back to the earth in return for all of these gifts? Plant something.
Well, you're the perfect person to ask our closing question, which is about the story the future will tell of now. You've alluded to it, but what do you think is the story that the future, I don't know, 25, 50, 100 years, will tell about us in this moment?
That this is a time of remembering. When we cast off the stories that industrial colonialism told us of who we are as people, and we remembered that we can be givers to the land, we remember that word is so important. I'm not just casting my mind back, but forward, because remembering our kinship with the living world and acting out of that kinship is the nature of this moment, the potential of this moment to be in the age of remembering who we are as humans.
Beautiful. Robin Wall Kimmerer, thank you so much for all your work and for Plant Baby Plant. I encourage people to check it out. It's been really a pleasure and an honor having you with me here on Laura Flander Friends.
Thank you, Laura.
Well, when I saw this video, it really inspired me to do something. I mean, I do what little I can. I don't have a yard. I don't have a summer home or anything like that. I do window gardens and ledge gardens, that sort of thing. But more than that, when they were showing the pictures of the smokestacks and how we think we just are free to use and take advantage of absolutely everything, didn't that make you think of us taking over Venezuela and their oil? I mean, just that's why we need to be informed about these things. I mean, obviously, we couldn't have been informed about that, but it's just important that we know what's going on around us. And that's why I thought, as a group, if people were interested in a particular aspect of that, they could take that as their own, learn about it, read about it, tell us about it, so that we can be informed as well. As a community, we can do that.
So what really impressed me about this particular video was the interrelatedness of all life, which is not the world, the culture that I live in. I'm told that we don't have community gardens, we have industrial food, industrial gardens, monocrops. And I'm dependent upon Jewel or Walmart or somebody else for my livelihood, for my life. And it's simply not true. Unless I let it be true. There are only, and I'll shut up after, there's only really three things in life that make up everything we have, called intelligence, uh, technology, tools, and Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is the important part of that. If I can make you think that you are dependent on me for any one of those three, you're my slave.
What sort of issues are you interested in?
Well, like, I see us as being interdependent, and there was one today about protecting the oceans and the sea life. And to me, that's really important. We are interdependent with what grows in the ocean as well as the water itself. And so that was one I read about today, about keeping the air clean is another one. And also about protecting other species in the earth. We're interdependent. That's something I live by. I know I'm walking along Pine Road and thanking the trees for giving me oxygen. Here's my CO2 for you.
Well, you would be a perfect person because you're following these things, if you're doing petitions already, to make reports on what's new. But that's the kind of thing, and I don't mean to pick on you particularly, Norma, but I don't mean to pick on you, but I'm just using you as an example. I mean, we are interested in these things already, and we do follow a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And we can talk to each other and inform each other, and remind each other.
Solar energy that is collected by plants
Yeah.
who are nourished by the air, water, and earth.
So it makes sense to take care of them, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's all managed by not Jewel, not General Motors, but by the farmer. We kind of reversed a lot of that stuff. And we need to get a new way of thinking, especially of city folk, I think.
Right, you're not thinking about who's raising those bananas, you go find who's and then the other things that the factory farms really are pretty ugly. It isn't like the olden days where we had cows and we cleaned up after them and walked them down to the pasture and back, and we, harvested the hay and planted corn and harvested that and stuff. It's different with the factory farms, so they'll have hundreds of cows stinking oof. Because it's not, you don't have a relationship with those cows when you got hundreds of them. I had a relationship with our cows. I knew who they were. Me. They had names. They did.
Well, think about that. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there today. There's things that you could report back to us on that would be helpful, not only in our lives, but also as we think about who we want to vote for to be our stewards in Springfield and Chicago and Washington, D.C. So the more you know, the better voter you are. Well, thank you for listening to that. I hope you got inspired. Oh, go ahead.
I have a topic that relates to energy. As many of you have now read, the data centers that process AI use a lot of electricity, and it's causing our rates to go up. They said it could cause a house to spend $70 more per month. And our Illinois state rep, she's like 5 blocks north of Whole Foods in Ashland. She was the leader of the Energy Jobs Act law that was passed 4 years ago. And I stopped on their staff now, and the next thing they're going to be working on at the state level that she's going to be lead is what many states are doing is requiring law that if the data center produces AI, they have to build their own power electric grid so it doesn't take away from us. And she's got many awards for doing things. And,
Who is she?
and Williams.
Really?
And her chief of staff is incredibly knowledgeable. So here's her contact information that if we want some come and report on where they are. She said they passed some, the chief of staff told me yesterday, they passed some energy law at the end of last year, she said, which is the foundation to pass this other law. And I'm gonna say to her, you know, you ought to get together with all the other states like New York, California, and you know, all get together to cause this big movement to say these data centers cannot keep sucking away all of our electricity that causes our rates to go sky high.
What area does she represent?
She's in District 11. Her office is on Ashland, 3505 North Ashland.
Well, if you think you'd like to be a speaker at one of our meetings that's on a subject that you are following that would be of interest to helping us learn about our candidates, what their stances are, etc., let me know. All right. Well, thank you for listening and hopefully inspired you. We're going to move on to our medical report by Dr. Bill.
Okay, I'm glad you decided to remain for the meeting. Some of the topics are really important. Big progress being made. Nothing you can get at Walgreens, so you don't need to worry about industrial. But you do need to medicate, baby medicate. So the first topic is a work that was done in Switzerland. And the animal that was used for the study was worms. Okay. Now the study was to find a productive way to break up these clumps that occur in vessels and cause Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and those diseases. So the breakup of the clumps would go forward with spermine, which is a well-known substance in our body, give more of it to the afflicted worms, and the health follows from that. And this was published in Nature Communications. I don't see how you know when a worm has Parkinson's disease, but this is where they're going with this. Okay, the second topic is an improved brain chip, which you lay on the brain. This has been going on for a while. You've heard Musk talk about it, but other people are involved in it. And this new and improved brain chip has a nickname BISC, B-I-S-C. It's a huge step forward from the previous brain chip. There's 65,000 electrodes and 1,000 channels on it. And the work was done, a coalition of Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, and Stanford, all with NIH funding. So it's laid on the cortex, presumably in the area related to the function which is of interest in that case. And information goes back and forth between the brain and the connected electronic environment, which is computers and so forth. And they envision this to be used for epilepsy, status post-stroke, ALS, blindness, and you know, whatever you can think of. The volume of the chip is 3 cubic millimeters.
Wow.
All of this electronics squeezed down to 3 cubic millimeters. And in the real world, there's a company that's been founded to take charge of making this available for people with real brains. And the company is called Campto Neurotech, so you should be watching out for that. When stock becomes available, definitely buy it.
So this is still experimental at this point?
Well, it's an improvement of something that already existed, but this particular one is experimental. Okay, now the next one is a break in the cage for long COVID. As you know, there's no treatment for long COVID. We don't really understand it too well. But a study done at Harvard and contiguous hospital, Beth Israel, is trying to come up with information about how to do something about this, because 15 million Americans have long COVID. You know too? So they have a small study that they're promoting in this particular article. There's only 140 patients, and they were divided into cohorts, and each sequentially followed. They looked at their proteomics and transcriptomics. That's all the biochemical processing that's going on in them, and inflammatory markers, etc., publishing their work in Nature Immunology. The idea is that the information that will come back from following these people provides pathways for new targets so that we can finally do something about this problem that affects all these millions of people. So that was a little disappointing at the end to find out that it's in progress, but they haven't named a single thing yet they're going to do with it. But I think when they get that kind of information back, they'll do something with it. Topic number 4, Illinois passes the Physicians Assisted Suicide Act, also called Senate Bill 1950, and for some reason, Deb's Law. My sister is a Deb, and I don't think she's ready for suicide, but we'll see. And no sooner did they pass the law, Pritzker made a big deal about signing it in public. No sooner did they pass the law than the protesters got busy on this, because it is ethically a very complicated situation. The way it was handled in my family is people simply starve themselves to death. They don't get any medication. They stop eating, their friends come and accompany them, and eventually they pass out and die. That is a punishment I don't think I could take. I want to eat while I'm starving. Okay, 5 out of 8 now. This topic is the OJ topic. Not O.J. Simpson. O.J. orange juice. So, a lady named Dr. Nascimento Fraga in Sao Paulo, Brazil, did this study where she looked at the effect of orange juice on heart health. That's a relationship I had never considered before, but she said that they found that the blood pressure goes down, systemic inflammation goes down, and fat metabolism goes up. So those are all the pathways to heart disease. So she presumes that it will be very beneficial for the heart to increase your intake of orange juice. And then in the article that was written about her and her work, they had some other people commenting on it. One person said, well, it would be nice if she had some outcomes to show us instead of all this molecular biology. But that comes first, and there will be outcomes. And you're not supposed to have tons and tons of orange juice. You're just supposed to enjoy it and have some going on.
And the kind you get in the store in the cans is probably not healthy for you.
I think if you add a little vodka, it helps too.
You guys. Now, this is done at the University of Pennsylvania and other centers also. the use of the extract of the rosemary plant has an impact on wound healing. So a lot of times when there's a wound, there's a scar, and you lose all of the features of the skin that you need to have healthy relationship with the world. And so they found this rosemary extract. They get out of that something called carnosic acid, and it acts on a receptor in the skin called TRPA1. I just mention that because you guys know all this stuff and you want to know how it all relates to it. So that promotes wound healing, and that's probably pretty close to being employed. The next one is work done in Sichuan University in China by Yunling Guo. This time the affected animal is the rat. And what they're trying to do is find a way to have a weight loss program that is not part of the Ozempic family. The Ozempic family is making progress in the world. People are losing weight, but there are some problems with it. So they wanted to see if they could do something better. Well, the problems with it are that there are side effects and so forth. And so they made, this chemistry lab made their agent from seaweed extract combined with green tea. Did you get that green tea? Yeah. And that creates a chemical system which traps the fat. It doesn't affect your appetite. You go on eating as you were. It traps the fat, but it traps it in a configuration where it's quasi-liquid-like, and therefore it can be excreted in the stool without causing diarrhea. The other one that was approved by the FDA for this extraction method was called Orlistat, and that one doesn't work as well. So my idea here is that they do this at Sichuan University because they want you to sit you on the edge of your chair waiting for your weight loss program to go forward. Ooh. When I get that laugh, I know I'm onto something. Sit you on your edge. And the final one is dairy, meaning corn, meaning cheese and milk and all that stuff, and relationship to dementia. The American mentality is that stuff is all fat, it's going to make you sick. So this study was done in Sweden, and they studied 28,000 adults for 25 years, and their conclusion was that certain kinds of cheese and milk, not the diet milk and so forth, had a relieving effect on the development of dementia later on. They didn't give too many numbers. The reference that had all that information in it was like this long, and I didn't get to get that, but they definitely showed in these 28,000 adults that there was a value to having your dairy and your cheese and so forth. High-fat cheese and cream lowers the risk. Low-fat cheese and skim milk and so forth is not protected.
Really? Do we have any more questions for Dr. Bill?
Well, thank you all for staying.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. There's a lot of good information there, Dr. Bill. At this point, if anybody has any announcements for other groups that they belong to that are having events, this is our community news section. Does anybody have anything that they would like to announce? Go ahead, Joanne.
The third week of the month, the third day Wednesday. The bike shop that is about 2 blocks south of the Whole Foods on Ashland and Belmont. They have 2 Chamber of Commerce networking events. And you don't have to be a member of one or like you, Russell. You can show up and get a free cup of coffee, and you get to network with people for any contacts you want, business or otherwise. And they had as many as 60 people. So they are now moving it to a room in the auditorium building, the church. That's that big church that's there on the south, because they have so many people. So that starts again over there the 3rd week in January, the 3rd day. At 8:30.
Well, thank you all for coming. Well, see you again, same time next month, first Tuesday of the month, 12:30.